Hello and welcome.
No, I like that you stopped and paused and smiled. That was nice.
Welcome to another Enough Already podcast. My name is Fingers Malloy. Tracy L. Connors is here. Hello, Tracy.
Hello, Fingers.
So, we are a month away from the first Democratic debate in the race for the White House of 2020. We've got Philadelphia. You're close by, the Philadelphia area. You know about their soda tax and how it's really a colossal failure. We're going to talk about those two stories, but before we get to that, we have to talk about President Trump, who is currently in Japan, talking to Japanese Prime Minister Abe?
Abe. Correct.
Lots of issues to talk about over there, between trade with China and what's going on with North Korea. And, people are talking about Trump over in Japan, and there's still, this talk of impeachment here in the United States. And so you're seeing a lot of that going on in the media because, why not take the dead horse out back and continue to beat it? It seems to be what they want to do on CNN and other news outlets. But I found it interesting that you thought to yourself, I wonder what the Japanese perspective is on this meeting, this summit. And so you found a story. And what are the Japanese saying about what's going on?
Well, from the Japan Times, which I imagine to be something akin to their USA Today, just by the way it's set up.
You should see their crossword puzzle.
Oh, God. I wonder what direction that goes. Right?
It always points towards magnetic north. I'm pretty sure.
Well, and can you do crosswords with a language that's a full character for every word?
Probably not.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Don't at me on that.
No, I would like to know, so you can at me.
Okay.
All right. So
at Tracy L. Connors on Twitter.
Thank you. And you can at Fingers for not being intellectually curious, at Fingers Malloy on Twitter. So here was one of the headlines. I had several, but I thought this was interesting. So Trump becomes first foreign leader to meet Japan's new emperor. So I learned something new today. I didn't know they had a new emperor. Did you know that?
Well, that isn't in the top 1,000 stories that they would cover over at CNN. So the only way I would know that there was a new emperor in Japan is if Trump tweeted about it, and along with an insult. So
anyway, I guess they've got a new emperor, new Naruhito is the emperor's name. So he and his lovely wife met Trump and Melania. So those of you who are watching can see the little photograph of them standing out on a red carpet when they played Japan's national anthem and then the United States' national anthem. Everybody looks lovely. So yeah, they have a new emperor, and he just came into his emperorhood, I guess.
Sure. Why not?
Yeah, I don't know what to call that. So I guess the last emperor abdicated.
Really?
Which they don't explain really what happened. But this emperor and his wife were both educated in Western schools. So I think the wife maybe went to Harvard, I want to say, and the emperor went to Oxford.
I've got it right here, why he abdicated.
Oh, okay. Tell me.
He was having an affair with Camilla Parker Bowles.
Oh, okay. She gets around.
Right?
Yeah.
Go ahead. How about
Good
a Camilla Parker Bowles reference? And we're only 5 minutes in.
Good for you.
Thank you.
So the Trumps, classy types that they are, presented the new emperor with a vintage 1938 viola made in the United States. And he's known to play the instrument, so it was very thoughtful. And then they gave
He didn't give a DVD of his speeches?
No, that was an iPod of his speeches that Obama gave to the Queen, I believe. And then he gave a DVD set of something else to, what's that guy's name? Gordon Brown, who was legally blind.
Oops.
Yeah, not very thoughtful.
It happens.
And then they gave the Harvard-educated empress a White House desk set that included a fountain pen handcrafted from a red oak tree from the university's grounds.
Oh,
Another
nice.
thoughtful gift. So apparently it was a huge honor, obviously, for him to be the first foreign leader to meet the new emperor. So they said that Abe had reached out to Trump and invited him for this purpose expressly, saying, like, we would like you to be the first head of state to come here. And so I love this. This is the last paragraph in this article. It says, Trump said, after Abe reaches out about doing this, he had asked Abe how big the imperial succession would be for the Japanese people compared with the Super Bowl. And Abe replied, it's about 100 times bigger, leading him, Trump, to immediately agree to the visit.
What an age we live in.
I love it. But I think that speaks to the close relationship that he's forged with him, and he doesn't fall into the dictators that Trump cozies up to.
Well, I mean, the coverage I've seen in the American press has been mostly negative about this trip.
Sure.
Between stories about Trump insulting Joe Biden while he's overseas, to insulting his hosts by contradicting information about North Korea's missile program. So it's interesting to see what kind of perspective you get from the foreign press. But it's, to me, I think it's nice to see that Trump would show that kind of respect to actually show, you wonder why is he rushing over there for the right reasons? Is it because he wants to have a close relationship, or is it because, oh wow, this is bigger than 100 Super Bowls?
Does it really matter?
At the end of the day, I guess no, it doesn't really matter. But it's this is so fun to watch.
It really is. I mean, did you see the footage of him at the sumo match?
I just saw photos. Unfortunately, I've been just running all over the country in the last few days, so I did see a little bit of media coverage, but I only saw the pictures, which is very unusual, seeing the President of the United States next to a sumo wrestler.
Oh, it was great. And I guess I had read in the American press, so who knows if this is true or not, that Trump brought them. Yep, there we go. This is from the Tokyo Times Today, or whatever the hell it's called, the Japan Times. The U.S. president on Sunday basked in the spotlight of his first state visit to Japan, taking in sumo matches and presenting the champion with a massive President's Cup after hitting the links earlier in the day with golfing buddy Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. So Trump made up a trophy for these guys. And it's
I bet
huge.
It was the best trophy. Nothing but the best.
Yes, it's enormous.
Well, you can't give a sumo wrestler a dinky trophy, Sarah. Or Sarah. Jesus Christ.
Where are we?
It's one of my 4 shows I do. I'm sorry.
There you go.
I apologize, Tracy.
That's all right. Here we go. For those who are watching, here's Trump handing the sumo wrestler the giant President's Cup trophy that he had made.
That's unreal. It's huge.
I think they said it weighs 60 pounds.
Good Lord. I bet he never gave that to The Rock when he was working with the WWE.
Nope. But
wow, outstanding.
They seem to enjoy him over in Japan.
I wonder if they have I would love to see their late night talk shows or their comedy shows if they have a Japanese Trump. They put a wig on and he does a Trump imitation.
I bet you they do. They probably have one of those wacky game shows that they've incorporated him into as a character.
Oh, Japanese game shows are the best. Absolutely,
that became really
the best.
huge for a while, right? What was the big one called? Do you remember? They just did the American voiceovers and made fun of everybody.
I don't know. I watched. You'll see clips all the time. On YouTube of there's this one where it went viral where they were trying to climb up a slope that was covered in plastic, and it was just covered in vegetable oil. And there's 4 guys trying to get up to the top, and they keep falling down, and everybody. It seems like a lot of what the Japanese like in their game shows is slapstick. Yeah. So it was just, they'd get almost to the top, and then one guy would slip, and he would take the other 3 down, and then you got everybody in the crowd really laughing, and they have some race. They got some racy game shows over there too. That sexually explicit, and just it's just normal, every day.
And the prize is like a washing machine.
What's that? I missed it.
The prizes are like a washing machine.
Yeah, right. It's all. But the
one
stuff.
that I was thinking of was called the Most Extreme Elimination Challenge.
Okay.
And that's the one where they would do stuff like you're talking about, like climbing up something that's all soaked up, running through a giant obstacle course that they had to complete, and things would fly up and punch them in the face, and they would get knocked down into mud. They'd have to run through. They have 3 doors, and only one of them you could actually make it through. The other 2 were actually wood, and it'd hit it and just get knocked out. And all this for a Maytag.
Well, there's this one game show. I don't know how explicit we want to get with this, but I remembered this, and I wanted to look it up to make sure it was real. There was a game show in Japan where contestants get hand jobs while they're singing karaoke.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
And that aired on television?
It aired on, yeah.
That seems so counter to everything we think about Japanese culture.
Right?
Yes.
I'm looking for I don't want to get into it. Anyway, that's the kind of stuff you won't find on ABC Family Channel on a Sunday night here in the States.
I don't know. ABC Family Channel's gone off the rails. I think they changed it now. It's called Fusion, and that's where they show a bunch of debauched shows for teens that feature transgender people, and now they're launching a new version of Party of Five. Do you remember that show?
Yes.
Okay, but this version, they are the children of illegal aliens that get deported by ICE. So in the original Party of Five, it was 5 kids that survived. Their parents, I believe, got killed by a drunk driver or something, and they were orphaned. And the oldest one was in his 20s, and the youngest one was just a baby. But on this version, I believe they're supposed to be Mexicans, or maybe just some amorphous Latino, who knows. And the parents get deported by ICE in the first episode.
Of course they do.
Sorry.
Everything has to have a political message. Everything. Yep. Everything has to have an agenda. Can't just have normal entertainment.
And they're calling it Party of Five, too. Why not just make it a whole new show? Anyway.
Should be Party of Cinco?
Yes. Fiesta de Cinco.
Yeah, sorry. My blend of English and ragged Spanish really makes... it gives you another example as to why I am not a network executive. That may surprise you. You probably thought I was a network executive.
I have thought that off and on over the years.
Can't even keep my co-host name straight. There's that. So, the television show, you go back to the ABC Family Channel quickly, and I remember I was getting my car serviced about 7 years ago, and you sit in the waiting room, and it's like, oh, ABC Family Channel logo at the bottom, and this is at noon on a Saturday. They're playing Pretty Woman. Like, really? How are you going to explain this to the kids? Oh, see that nice little lady? Yeah, she's showing a little bit of skin. Oh, she's a whore. Really? Really, ABC Family? Oh, it's a heartwarming tale about a hooker who finds love.
Tell me, what's a hooker?
The woman said something about a Cleveland steamer. Oh, so there's that. That's Trump in Japan. Let's move to the States, Tracy.
All right.
It was brought to my attention today. And once again, I will say this regarding our process here in America of electing a president. It's too long. Let's make this decision in a week. I mean, let's face it, we elected a reality TV show host to be president of the United States. So, clearly we aren't taking this very seriously.
Well, what if you just turned it into a reality show? And had elimination challenges and that kind of stuff. Make it like Survivor. You know, throw them on an island. Let's see how they behave.
More people would probably be interested in that than actually having a normal campaign. People were probably
go ahead.
People were probably more interested in the circus. Isn't that show on what was it, Showtime?
Showtime. Mm-hmm. They still do it. Minus Halperin, though, because he's been Me Too'd out of personhood.
Oh. Did you see who else is being Me Too'd out?
No.
Tony Robbins.
Oh, yeah, I did see that. I don't think that'll work.
No? You don't think people will buy that?
No.
The Tony Robbins on the side was doing some shady stuff? You don't think that's possible? Or do you just not want to believe it?
I think it's possible. I just don't think he's going to take it.
Oh.
I think if you fight back hard enough, I mean, not like Weinstein did by hiring, what was it, like ex-Mossad agents to go make up dirt or dig up dirt on everybody that was accusing him.
Did you see that there's it looks like Weinstein came up to a settlement agreement, and it averaged out to something like $60,000 per victim. $60,000.
Well, I don't know. They're $60,000 richer than they were before.
It all depends on the harassment.
Yeah, I agree. But this is what happens. I mean, it's almost like one of the big, what do they call them? Class action lawsuits.
Right.
The lawyers make out like bandits, and everybody else. I've gotten them for stuff I didn't even know I was involved with.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you had AT&T during this time and this time. Here's a check for $2.58. Congratulations. I'm like, oh my God, I won. This is amazing.
And the lawyer's like, oh, screw it. Just send them a check for $15. They'll be happy.
Right.
They get $50 million.
2 million plaintiffs.
Right.
So we divide that settlement up. The lawyers take 10, 15, 20%. I don't know. It's not a bad gig.
And if we're being real here, there's always a difference between the male perspective and the female perspective. Because, I don't feel as threatened by a woman as what a woman would feel if a man were hitting on her. But if I had some unwanted sexual advance from a woman and I got the hell out of the room and then I got $60,000 later on, I'd be pretty damn happy about that. But, I live in a different world than you ladies. So... you tell me. Am I right in thinking that? If you've been hit on, I'm sure you go to clubs and you've probably had guys, become inappropriate with you.
Nothing that rose to the level of I need a $60,000 check to recover. Not that I wouldn't take it,
right?
But no.
But I don't know what I know some of the stories were pretty awful with Weinstein, but I don't know all the stories. If it were just a situation where, a woman walked into the room and he pulled a Charlie Rose and just walked into the room with no pants on, and you walk out and you get $60,000 out of it. Hey, that's not a bad deal, Tracy. Is it?
No, that sounds all right to me.
I'm not talking about the obviously really sick stuff. Well, and none of it's good, but still, it'll be interesting to see when more news comes out about that settlement. If some people are really getting shortchanged by it and some people are cashing in.
Well, I did find the story just now. This is from Fox News. Harvey Weinstein accusers could get less than $60 G each in the settlement. So here we go. Just like I said, Harvey Weinstein's lawyers will haul in $14 million as part of a proposed $44 million settlement with his sexual assault accusers, while most of the alleged victims will get an average of $60,000. So let's see. There's 150 alleged victims who are in this victim class.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
150.
Oh, and get this. Here you go. Not a single dime of the damages will come from Weinstein's pocket, with insurance companies for the Weinstein Company and his movie house Miramax footing the bill. Did you know you could purchase such a thing?
That's amazing. That's amazing. So his personal wealth is not going to be affected by this. Nope. Future income, yes. I don't know how it screws up any royalties he gets. You know about the business more than I do. You were in it at one point.
It won't screw up any of that. If it's all, it sounds like they had an insurance policy that covered sexual harassment settlements. I can't believe that it would be this high, though. $44 million.
That number is staggering. 150 people allege that he sexually assaulted them. And
it's in addition. So they're saying that the proposed settlement say that there are 18 women in the U.S., the U.K., and Canada with individual lawsuits that will be given $500,000 each, leaving $9 million to be divided among 150 women who are part of a class action suit. So the full settlement's only $44 million.
They must have some sort of scale, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if he touched you, you get this much money.
Well, no, it was who joined the class action suit and who sued him individually sounds like what the difference is. So he's saying 18 women sued him in individual lawsuits while 150 joined a class action suit.
So, I mean, okay, so the people who joined the class action lawsuit, there won't be any kind of scale. They're just all going to get...
They get exactly the same thing.
Wow. That's something. Will he ever work in Hollywood again?
I don't know. I don't think so.
If he were younger, do you think he'd work? I mean, because he's an older man now. I mean, by the time you try to rehabilitate your career or something like that, it's got to be 2 decades. I mean, I'm still amazed that Roman Polanski gets standing ovations at the Oscars. I don't get any of this stuff, but
I don't get it either. I don't think he'll work again, but I don't know.
Strange things have happened.
Still out there,
right?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Bill Clinton, back to the original setup to this is I cannot believe we're 30 days away from the first presidential debate.
Yep.
You're going to have what are we up to? 66 candidates who are running from the Democratic side, Tracy?
The number is officially 23.
Okay, 23. I'll throw a bunch of facts in there. But the 23 people. So, we had talked about this on previous shows where there's going to be a lot of fighting to get on that main stage. The last time I checked a Real Clear Politics poll, the top 5 in the race are Biden, Bernie Sanders, Pete Buttigieg, and not in any particular order, Elizabeth Warren, and
Kamala.
Yeah, Kamala Harris. So they're going to be on the stage. Then from there, you can't have all of them. I mean, the Republican debates in 2016 looked ridiculous. And they didn't have everybody on the stage. They had the kiddie debate beforehand, where the people who didn't have a chance in hell got to talk like grown-ups for an hour before they brought on the main event. So they're trying to lay the groundwork for these debates. They're starting to set rules. Tell us about it.
All right. Well, Politico has the story. This just came out. Democrats institute rule to prevent undercard debate in June. So they're trying to avoid exactly what you just described that the Republicans did in the 2016 race. So it says the new rule adopted by the Democrat National Committee and NBC News will evenly divide top-tier candidates across 2 nights in the first Democrat presidential primary debates in June, a move to maintain viewer interest in both events by making sure well-known contenders are on stage both nights. So listen to this. Democrats getting at least 2% support in the polling average.
You try to
honestly, they could forego all of this and just put the top 5 on, and then it would actually be worthwhile to watch.
You try to poll higher than low-fat milk.
Oh, God. Oh, I'm sorry. I have to write that down so that can be the show title.
Okay, so they're trying to avoid...
So at least 2% in the polls will be randomly and evenly split between the 2 nights. I don't believe this random stuff at all.
All right.
But I will continue. And so each night will feature 10 candidates. According to the formula obtained by Politico. They act like this is all so important and that they put a lot of time and effort and thought into this.
They obtained the secret formula like it's the Colonel's 11 herbs and spices.
Right. So it says they're quoting from the formula. The final list of debate participants, parenthetically, after any tie-breaking procedure is executed, if necessary, end parentheses, will be divided into 2 groups, candidates with a polling average of 2% or above, and those with a polling average below 2%. So I don't understand. I thought you had to get 2% to even be there. But both groups will be randomly divided between Wednesday night and Thursday night, thus ensuring that both groups are represented fairly on each night.
Listen, I have full faith in the DNC trying to be fair.
Right.
Picking a nominee.
With debates, yeah, they're known to do that.
Right.
So this says the rule will not keep any 2 candidates from appearing on stage together, but it will prevent the random chance of loading one night with polling leaders and the other night with less well-known presidential candidates. So here's the 8 candidates who have a polling average at or above 2% right now. Joe Biden, Cory Booker, Pete Buttigieg, Kamala Harris, Amy Klobuchar, Beto O'Rourke, Bernie Sanders, and Elizabeth Warren. So with the newly announced rule, 4 would be guaranteed to appear on the first night and 4 would be guaranteed to appear on the second night. So now the question becomes, is it really going to be random? Will we see, the top 4 perhaps at the same time? It could happen, right? We're just randomly drawing names out of a hat. Wink, wink.
Well, look, you have to believe that the establishment of the Democratic Party wants Joe Biden to be their nominee, right?
Yes.
Which is just like in 2016 in direct conflict with what a lot of the base wants.
Right. And he's employing the Hillary Hyde strategy, right? Have you noticed that?
Yes, and it's smart. I think that's what he has to start acting like this is a general election and do what he can to not be dragged to the left by the lunatics.
Right.
And if the lunatics are smart, they will do what they can to drag Joe Biden down, because that's their only shot. I mean, I think we talked about this last week, where it seems like each candidate is trying to have their one little pet issue, and that will be their issue. And we're going to talk about Kamala Harris a little bit and her wage gap. That seems to be a passionate issue with her. And you've got Cory Booker seems to be interested in criminal justice reform and reparations. You've got Pete Buttigieg with his fake feud with Mike Pence, and the list goes on and on. It's like, okay, this is why I stand out above the crowd because of this issue or that issue. Eventually, you got to take on Biden. And I think it'll be smart for them, and I think what the attack will be, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tracy, it'll be that, Joe Biden just isn't progressive enough. He's a candidate of the past. We're grateful for his service with the best president in our nation's history, Barack Obama, but now it's time to move on and turn the page to a new generation of leadership in the Democratic Party, yada, 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 free health care and free college education.
Right, and there's plenty of clips of him. He's out there saying he's the most progressive candidate, which is laughable.
Right.
This is Biden saying this. Nobody believes that. And then you've got videos of him from the 90s pushing the crime bill, which now everybody hates. I saw a video on Jimmy Dore's podcast, which I would recommend to anybody that enjoys our podcast. It is a lefty that's intellectually honest, but also hilariously funny. And you can find his stuff on YouTube. And he was showing clips of Biden that surfaced that I had never seen before from some fundraiser. So it's, behind closed doors, talking to donors, and he's screaming. Like Dore does his show a lot of the times live, and he's got a panel that are also comedians as well.
It's fantastic.
And they're all progressives. And they're just making fun of him. They're like, this looks like he was at an open bar wedding and just stumbled into the next banquet room over and started lecturing everybody about the drugs and the crime coming over the border.
Right.
Which is what this video is. He's yelling about how we need I think he says that we need a fence, not a wall, but it sounds very Trumpian. Mm-hmm. So these guys are pointing to this and say, this is such a joke. This is who Biden really is. We all know this. This is all phony. Everybody has this nostalgia for the Obama era for God knows what reason. But this is why he's avoiding all press. He hasn't done a single town hall on either MSNBC. I don't think he's gone on one of their shows. He hasn't done the CNN town hall. He hasn't done a Fox town hall. He's hiding. I think I read he's done like 11 events. They said Elizabeth Warren was going to do 11 events in one day in Iowa.
Wow.
He's hiding out. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're 18 points ahead in the polls.
Right.
That's what you do.
He's more than that. Yeah. Let's see. No, he's more than that. He's 17, excuse me. According to Real Clear Politics right now, he's at 34.7%, and Sanders is behind him at 17.7%.
And see, what kills Sanders right now is, the fact that he's an awful revolutionary.
Yeah.
But besides that, the people that were going for Bernie Sanders in 2016, now they have, it's like Baskin Robbins. You got 31 different flavors now. And you go in, you're like, well, I liked Bernie, the revolutionary in 2016, but, I don't know too many revolutionaries that would let CNN, would make CNN basically said to Bernie, you're our bitch. Mm-hmm. That's not a revolutionary. To then, after CNN screws you over, you go back to CNN when you're running for president again, and don't tear him a new ass.
Right.
So people look at him and say, well, geez, there's Bernie, but look at all these other candidates that are progressive. I'm going to vote for Cory Booker instead, or Mayor Pete, or I've got so many other options. So I think that's what's going to end up burning Sanders in the end, is there are too many other options out there. So, and then you got the mayor of New York who just jumped into the race, who everybody's excited about. It's all freaking crazy. I apologize again. I'm running on fumes, so.
You're fine. I bet we could find at least one person that wants you to be president.
One?
Yeah, why not?
Well, unfortunately, I was born in Kenya, so I'm disqualified.
I don't think that's a disqualifier anymore, is it?
But here you got Bill DeBlasio, which I find hilarious. We played the clip last week on The View of Whoopi Goldberg just laughing her ass off over the idea that Bill de Blasio is running for president of the United States. And you think about some of the things that they've implemented in or are trying to implement in New York City between no more skyscrapers,
right.
Was Meatless Mondays. One of the very first things he wanted to implement, and I don't know if it actually happened because I try to avoid following all things New York, was he wanted to ban the horse-drawn carriages in Central Park. I mean, it just seems like anything that's fun and enjoyable.
Yeah, they're the fun police.
Yeah. Where's No Fun Friday? You've got Meatless Monday, No Fun Friday, Worrying Wednesday. It's just nothing but misery and unhappiness from this guy. And he's saying to himself, you know what? I've brought this to New York. I want to bring it to the rest of the country.
Misery loves company.
That's right. So you have New Yorkers laughing their asses off at the idea that Bill de Blasio wants to run for president. And the thing is, we saw his first campaign ad on this show last week or the week before?
Last week.
Last week. And, man, it should scratch every itch for progressives. Was it free preschool, free health care? There was a whole laundry list of freebies. He's like
$15 minimum wage. It's the progressive checklist.
Right. So you would think, especially in New York, you would think that libs in New York would be jumping for joy. Think, oh, wow, this is great. Bill de Blasio is running for president of the United States. He'll take all of his great policies and his leadership to Washington. And maybe there is some of that because they want him to get the hell out of New York.
No, but you're right. You would think if he was doing such a wonderful job, they would all be like, this is so great. Everybody should live the way that we're living. But no, that's not the case. And that's why I love this article so much. And this is from New York Magazine. The headline is, I tried to find a New Yorker who wants de Blasio to be president. It wasn't easy. And I don't think this is supposed to be funny, but it's hilarious. This is by Eve Pacer. So she says, she begins, why are you doing this? This is a quote. Seemingly every New Yorker thought when Bill de Blasio announced his 2020 presidential bid. Someone posted a sign at the Prospect Park YMCA, the gym the mayor frequents, because, he's one of the people fingers.
That's right.
Every day he commutes from Gracie Mansion 11 miles in a town car over to the Prospect Park YMCA. So this is a sign that someone posted at this YMCA. It says, by entering these premises, you agree not to run for president of the United States in 2020 or in any future presidential race.
Wait a minute. Before you go any further, can we go back a second to what you just said a minute ago, where you have a man who is championing, climate change and the Green New Deal, is driving 11 miles, and because there are no other gyms in New York City that are closer.
No,
driving 11 miles in a town car every day. He goes to work out at the YMCA to show he's just one of the folks. Bill O'Reilly calls them the folks. Not concerned at all about the damage he's doing to the environment by driving that town car all the way across town and back.
He's paying a pretty penny for that YMCA membership, fingers. Don't question him. But I got that information later in this article. So it's become a contentious issue, this person says. It wasn't particularly hopeful. De Blasio's perfection for this particular YMCA branch has become a contentious issue. His almost daily 11-mile car ride from Gracie Mansion to Park Slope, where he lived prior to becoming mayor, has outraged New Yorkers who see it as an indulgent waste of his time and hypocritical for a politician who has encouraged his constituents to make individual choices to combat climate change.
Thank you.
Another joke flyer, this is another one posted at this YMCA, read, "Don't be like Bill. Wipe down all the equipment after use.
Oh, no.
And don't run for president in 2020. I wish my gym had this much of a sense of humor.
Oh, that's
But
funny.
let me get back to the original sign. So I will not run for president of the United States in 2020 or in any future presidential race. You will immediately cease any and all trips to Iowa, New Hampshire, and other primary states. You will agree to focus solely on your current job here in New York City, which you are not excelling at. I wish this person had gotten photographs of these signs. This is hilarious. So she goes to this gym to find out if there's anybody there that likes him. No. Then she talks to her mom, who's a big progressive. Her mother doesn't like him. She asks her mom to ask her friends. None of her mother's friends like him. Oh, and she'd also posted on Facebook, Reddit, all these places, because this is what lazy reporters do, saying, hey, if you're a fan of Bill de Blasio and you live in New York City and you plan on voting for him, please contact me. I'd like to interview you. Crickets. So eventually she has to reach out to the campaign itself. So that's who she finds.
Wait a minute. She reached out to the de Blasio campaign to ask the de Blasio campaign if they know anyone who will vote for Bill de Blasio for president of the United States?
Yes. So she said, defeated and further than ever from my goal of finding just one New Yorker who's on board with the notion of President Bill de Blasio, I left the Y and descended to my last resort. I reached out to Olivia, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce her last name, the mayor's former deputy press secretary, who is now working on his campaign, and asked her to put me in touch with someone, anyone, for this guy. It felt like cheating. Ideally, I wanted to find a Blasio supporter without the assistance of his employees, but I had no choice. So then she speaks to two people that are activists that like him. That she was put in touch with by somebody who works on his campaign.
Can you imagine?
No.
Think about going to pick one of the candidates on the Democratic side. Bernie Sanders.
Oh, okay.
Go with Bernie Sanders. And going to Bernie Sanders' home state. And struggling to find anyone in Vermont who would support Bernie Sanders running for president of the United States. This is someone walking through the streets of New York where Bill de Blasio is mayor and cannot find a person that's excited about a Bill de Blasio presidential campaign. This isn't walking through Iowa. You're not walking through South Carolina. You're walking through freaking New York City, and you can't find one person that wants him to run for president? And this guy still thinks it's a good idea to run? You don't even have your hometown?
Who's elected you twice now?
He should be knocked out of the first debate. That should be one of the candidates. Should just 30 seconds, dude. New York City residents don't even want you to run for president. And I said, why are you here?
I don't know that he's going to make it to the debate. Remember, he conceded that already.
I still
he's got in so late.
I still say that this has more to do with Pete Buttigieg than anything else.
Maybe.
Whether, he would never admit it, but, I'm sure that he's thought, gee, I'd kind of like to be president. And then when Trump wins, he probably has the mentality, oh, well, geez, if Donald Trump can be elected president of the United States, anybody can be elected president of the United States. And then to have some mayor of a town in flyover country that doesn't even have 100,000 people.
No, and de Blasio's got equal woke points, I would imagine, right?
Yeah. So, look, I think this candidacy is hilarious.
Either round.
Don't you? I mean, this may end up being funnier than Hillary.
It's possible.
I mean, because the Hillary campaign, there were a lot of laughs. With Grammy shakes a lot. This This is unreal. This is going to be so fun to watch. My only fear is he may not last very long.
Aww. Don't worry. Somebody else is equally as pathetic. They just haven't gotten as much, written about as much as he has.
It's just a shame that he comes from a place where there's not the ability to raise a lot of resources to run for president of the United States. New York freaking City! He's the mayor! And people are like, no, we don't want to have anything to do with you, big president of the United States. And it also shows that you can be a ham sandwich with a D at the end of your name, and you're going to be elected mayor of New York City.
Right. Oh.
Well, speaking of cities that have some wacky politicians, you're from the Philly area.
I am.
And over the past couple of years, we have covered the Philly soda tax. For those who aren't familiar with the soda tax, can you catch us up to speed as far as what is being taxed and where? Is this tax on soda at restaurants, or is this just convenience stores and grocery stores? Tell us a little bit about the Philly soda tax.
I believe it's everywhere that serves soda. So this is from the article that I pulled up about how much of a failure it is, but they say this is from Hot Air. In 2017, Philadelphia became the second U.S. city to put a tax on sugary drinks and soda. So it wasn't just soda. It was everything, I think, including like fruit juices and stuff like that. Anything sugary and bad for you. Mm-hmm. So they say the 1.5 cents per ounce tax was what it came down to.
And how did they sell this to the electorate? Where are they saying this money is going? Because most of the time when something like this happens, there's it's for the children. Mm-hmm. It's for education, and then you find out it doesn't go to education; it goes somewhere else. Right. Or is this to fight childhood obesity? It was a
1-2 punch. It was fighting all obesity and funding education.
Oh, okay.
Because we got a lot of teacher pensions to pay, you know.
Right, and that's the bottom line right there.
Yeah.
Education, that can easily be, we've got to fully fund our pension fund.
Right.
And it's going to help the children, you see.
Yes, paying teachers to sit at the Jersey Shore.
Right.
So $100,000 a year to do so.
Right. So, as was predicted by many, you do something like this and it pisses a lot of people off. And when you do something like this and there is ways for people to get around the soda tax, that's what they're going to do.
Imagine that. You mean it would change behavior?
Yes.
Even though they admit that the tax in part was to change behavior by keeping people from drinking the sugary drinks.
But in fact, the only behavior that was changed was where the people are buying their sugary drinks.
Right. And if you'll remember, too, there was an impact on Pepsi, which has bottling plants in the state. So they were impacted in the beginning. So this article, who wrote this, Jazz Shaw over at Hot Air, says, back when Philadelphia decided to join the ranks of liberal cities, fleecing its inhabitants with a soda tax to, quote, improve their health, we predicted that it was going to backfire. And the effects were felt almost immediately when workers started losing their jobs at Pepsi. But still they persevered and stuck with it. Surely people would start opting for healthier beverage options, and those big tax revenues would begin to stream in to fill the city's coffers. So now that they've been at it for well over a year, how did it work? Well, get this. Sales in local retail outlets have plunged by more than 50%. And mysteriously, people are still drinking soda.
How is that possible?
I don't know. People have this thing called mobility.
Really?
Yeah. Who would have thought?
Is there a big black market, too, in Philadelphia where you got guys walking around in trench coats, pulling you in the back alley, and they're opening up a trench coat and saying, you want to buy some Mountain Dew?
Probably. So they're quoting, Jazz is quoting from a CNN piece about all this, where they seem to be confused about what was going on. Can't explain it. So this is Hot Air quoting CNN. While researchers found that sales of the sugary beverages fell in Philadelphia after the tax, beverage sales in nearby towns and counties without the tax went up. That suggests people may have been traveling to get their soda at a reduced price.
Wow.
So Jazz says, well, wonders never cease. People stopped buying their soda in the city, and almost undoubtedly a lot of their other shopping items had decided to shop where prices were lower. Jesus.
Which is what the retailers predicted.
Exactly. So he says, CNN doesn't get into any of this, of course, but you can do the math easily enough. The soda increased 17%, but the sales fell by 51%. So then he does some math and figures out that this was a net loss for the city.
Well, so clearly what needs to happen here, Tracy, is they need to double down. They didn't get enough revenue from this tax, so they have to double the tax, and that way they'll get more. No,
what they need to do is what they do with cigarettes, right? Every state, you get a tax stamp on your cigarette packs. So you know you paid the taxes. So if I get caught in Pennsylvania with cigarettes from, I don't know if it's still true because I haven't smoked in almost 10 years, but I believe Missouri had the lowest cigarette tax. They had almost zero cigarette tax. So I could go to Missouri and buy cigarettes at, I don't know, $3-4 instead of buying them here for $7 or $8. But if I'm caught here with those Missouri tax stamp cigarettes, oh boy. So they could also go with that route and just start getting, you have to have a little soda tax stamp that you show to the authorities.
Yeah, then you have the soda police that will be out in full force. I mean, anytime you can hire more government employees, that's what you do. So then you got
turning cops into tax collectors is always a really good idea.
Yes. So, you're going to have people walking down the sidewalk with a soda and they'll be stop, frisk, and look at your Mountain Dew to see if there's a tax stamp. What a world.
Oh, it's so insane. They got to get the money out anywhere they can, right?
Right.
Even if it doesn't work out, it was still a brilliant idea.
Well, look, you still get credit at the cocktail party for trying to make a difference when it comes to, childhood obesity in general, and be able to help fund the pensions or the public schools.
Right.
Just makes you a hero.
Yeah. Well, there is some good news, though. He says at the end, obviously nobody was paying attention because this happened in Chicago and Seattle, but the governor of California put a 10-year moratorium on soda taxes in that state. So it's bad when California is the sane actor in the bunch.
Wow. Well, that is surprising. Well, good on California. Hey, we rag on California all the time. They did something right. No new taxes. But what about those old soda taxes?
Well, those will stay in place.
Of course. Well, we're about 55 minutes in, Tracy, and we still haven't talked about Kamala Harris.
I know. Let's get on to her then.
By the way, I'm to the point where I can't even stand looking at Colbert anymore.
No, I don't want to watch the clip or listen to it at all. I have not, and I will not, because that's not the point.
I mean, it's so unwatchable. I saw a clip the other day that people were gushing about an interview he had with Keanu Reeves. And he asked Keanu Reeves, what happens when we die? And not knowing Keanu's past and how, his best friend died, and I think his girlfriend died or something. And so Keanu got kind of emotional and, said, people who are still here will miss us. And then they panned over to Stephen Colbert. He was just blown away by that answer. And I'm looking at him thinking, oh, you're such a goddamn phony.
What a bizarre question to ask Keanu Reeves. Was there a reason for that?
Death came up. I half-assed watched it, and I only watched it because everybody seemed to be going gaga over it. But when you've made your career, you became a household name off of being a phony.
Yeah. Playing a character. Yes.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why you said you don't date actors, right?
They lie for a living.
They lie for a living. So I can't stand even watching Colbert. But apparently Kamala Harris, I still want to call her Kamala.
I know, me too.
Kamala Harris was on Colbert talking about the gender wage gap, right?
Of course, because this is still the biggest problem facing all us women today.
Right.
But Politifact actually said that she's mostly false on this. So this was her quote on that. In America today, women on average are paid 80 cents on the dollar of what men are paid for the same work. So I thought, oh, God, this old saw is back again. Right? We heard this so many times, and I did go and check, and Politifact had checked President Obama on this because he used to say this. Although I did think it was interesting, and nobody pointed this out when they jumped all over her on social media for this, was that she's saying it's 80 cents. And I don't know if you remember what Obama said.
It was in the 70s, wasn't it? Was it
Yes,
71 cents?
77 cents.
77 cents.
So she's burying the lead here. We got a raise, ladies. The Trump economy is so good that we all got a 3-cent raise.
What did you do with your 3 cent raise?
Oh, I spent it. Shoes, you know.
Soda tax.
But anyway, so Politifact basically breaks down what she's doing, and it's not an apples to apples comparison, of course. So it refers to the average pay for all jobs held by all men versus all jobs held by all women. And so there's a huge disparity in those things. So, like, if you think about it, one of the things they always bitch about is how all the CEOs, like the Forbes 500 list and the top 50, it's all men. So that's going to skew it way heavily in one direction. Think about all the athletes too.
Right.
And we all know that male actors and female actors don't get paid the same because female actors can't seem to get agents that will negotiate contracts for them well.
Right.
And that's actually one of the biggest things when you dig into these numbers. And I know Thomas Sowell's done a lot of work on this over the years, and I'm not sure if I got it from him or from another study that I had read about it. But when you account for all these different factors, like lifestyle choices, a lot of women want to be mothers and they want time off, and they can come in and out of the workforce. But if you say, okay, unmarried men and women in the same kind of job, women are actually getting paid more. But where they do find, in some cases, they're not. And there's a little bit of a disparity. It's like 2 or 3 cents on the dollar. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that comes from assertiveness.
Right.
So they say men are much more willing to go and ask for a raise than women are. Okay, then let's deal with that. Let's teach little girls, but, we ban bossy and all that garbage. Do you remember that?
I remember that.
Women are bossy. We got to ban that. You can't call women bossy.
See, that campaign didn't really catch fire.
No.
Even though it
you weren't
looks
persuaded?
Good. It looks good on a bumper sticker. Don't get me wrong. But, no, I mean, it's so ridiculous. If you, like right now, I'm building an addition on my house. And say I've got 2 contractors, one's a female, one's a male, and they bid on my addition, and the female comes in lower, and I end up going with the job. Hiring her, I'm paying her less. So they're
contributing to the statistic.
Yeah, I would be. But to me, I think so much of it goes back to that, where, it has been written about quite a bit that women are much more hesitant to ask for raises. Sometimes they just don't feel like they're self-conscious about their worth and don't feel like they're worth asking for more money sometimes, and guys just go in and say, I want a raise. That's the how we're wired. So, I mean, what are you supposed to do? If you're running a business and John comes in and asks for a raise and you give it to him, or do you give Sally a raise too if she doesn't ask for it?
Not if you're a smart business owner.
No,
unless she deserves it and you feel like, oh, okay, I want to keep the playing field even so that Kamala Harris can't run around. Kamala, excuse me, claiming I pay 80 cents on the dollar.
Well, I'm shocked.
No, I mean, it's a thing to me. It annoys me. Like, let's just be honest about this and say that accounts for a lot of the actual disparity, if there is any of it whatsoever. Mm-hmm. It's that men are willing to ask for this. So, ladies, you got to ask for what you want.
Right.
It's not that hard.
You get everything else you want.
Right, right.
For Christ's sake. Go in and ask for a freaking raise. God, you outlive us too, for crying out loud.
Yeah, that's why you need the raise.
That's right. Well, good on Politifact for actually calling her out on it.
Yeah.
That surprises me.
Well, and they said it's mostly false.
Oh.
So they give her a little bit of credit. But as I said, I did go and search, and it took a little bit to find it because I searched Obama wage gap, and then it's just like everything Obama's ever said. Their search results suck. So I had to do some Google foo, and I found it. But they had fact-checked him, too, and said this is incorrect. The way they're presenting this makes it seem like something that's not true. So, doesn't mean we'll stop hearing it.
No, of course not, because listen, anytime you can rile up the base with this nonsense, you do it. So,
but this is the time when I would love to see Trump come out and say, oh, it's 80 cents now? You guys have changed your lie? The economy's so good for women under me that you all got a raise.
Send your thank you notes to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Right. Special 3-cent stamps will commemorate this.
Oh, good Lord. Well, anything else, Tracy?
I don't think so.
You can find the Enough Already podcast on SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, and iTunes, and there are several other podcast platforms where you can find it. Just do a search for Enough Already podcast, and you'll find it right there. Also, if you're on iTunes and you listen to us, do us a favor, give us a 5-star review. It helps us get the Enough Already podcast in front of more people on iTunes, and you can watch us go back and forth on BitChute and YouTube. Final thoughts, Tracy?
I got to start putting away that extra 3 cents a week I'm getting. Or, excuse me, an hour. That really could add up.
It could. Oh. You said you're buying shoes with that money?
Yeah, it's 24 cents a day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's $1, what, 20 a week? 19 a week? Yeah. Something like that. Math is hard.
Well, less than $2 a day. This is or $2 a week. This is turning into like a Sally Struthers ad for feeding poor African children. Maybe that's what you should do with the money, Tracy. For as little as 3 cents a day, you could.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I could donate it to DeBlasio's campaign. I think I'll do that. Just to keep him in the running.
She is Tracy L. Connors. Follow her on Twitter at Tracy L. Connors. Follow me on Twitter at Fingers Malloy. See us on Facebook, facebook.com/Enough Already Podcast. And, of course, you can find all things Enough Already on our website, enoughlalready.us. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you next week with an all-new Enough Already.